Hope everyone's doing outstanding. November 22nd, 8:30 on this fine Friday. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at and go from there. But take a look at the S&P futures, slightly in the red here. They were just kind of hanging in there overnight, and then I guess Europe data came out, put some pressure there, and you saw yields go up. I don't know if that's some of it, but some interesting sessions. I put on the watch list. Uh, it seems like carbon copy sessions the last 3 days, and it seems like have weakness in the morning, hit a bottom 10:30 or 11, and then we just rip higher or melt higher for the rest of the session. Wednesday we had that end of day rally that pushed us flat or slightly in the green, and yesterday was 10:30 was the bottom, and Joby's running here. I don't know if there was an upgrade. So 685 and excuse me, not six. Maybe that's 2026. 585 seems to be support. 590 was resistance. Now we're over that, so that would be support. And then I think 600 comes. We got that Nvidia. I read this morning someone called it the earnings climax. So I guess we got that out of the way. There's not much in regards to catalysts. Next week's only a 3.5 trading week, so we have markets closed Thursday, half day Friday. And then the Fed's mid-December, and right now the probabilities for a rate cut are starting to. It's like 40% chance that the market's pricing in there's going to be no rate cut. So it should be interesting. But at least now we can focus on some other things, which I think, in my opinion, hopefully will be the small caps picking up steam. And sound like a broken record for 7 months now saying that. But real like the setup yesterday, small caps up over 1.5%, in the green every session this week. And maybe we start to look for that 240 handle at IWM into next week. Just some, I wouldn't call it areas of concern, but the VIX is still stubborn. It was a big candle at the in the morning, reversed into the red, and then the U.S. dollar and yields were higher yesterday. So slightly, want to see those start to come back in. All right, so now U.S. dollars at multi-year highs now. So now individual names, and of course, first I'll talk about LMND. It was yesterday. I put on the watch list. Wow, because it's like, what word can you describe the move? And then just did it again yesterday. I mean, yesterday wasn't a big a move as the previous two sessions, but still up 8% over 50. Tested 52 in the morning. Looked like oh my gosh, it was going to reverse course. It was down in the 47s in mid morning, and then just hung up there. And when I was on the rant yesterday afternoon, it was right near highs of the session. And considering, if you take a look at the stock, it's up 50% this week, right? It's not like this is a penny stock or whatever. This is, it's a $3 billion company now. So to think that it just added over $1 billion in market capitalization in a week, it's just pretty remarkable. I mean, some of these moves, especially on some of these names like that, they don't come very often. So thankful to be part of it. I mean, I wish it would happen in November. I had November strikes, so I didn't have to roll out of those into December's, but it is the case. Take what you get, but still some monster profits this week. And I was on the fence about closing the rest of December's, but I start thinking that maybe this might head to 60. So today, I mean, I'm probably just hold the November's and the last of the November's, the last of December's, unless there's some kind of JMP Securities finally price target raised to 60 unlimited. Maybe 46, 47 is maybe a spot I'll close the December's. I don't want to lose all the profits, but they're $18 at the close yesterday. So maybe I can't be too greedy. So I think 60 would be where I pull the ripcord and then just move on. I mean, I'll keep it on radar, but I mean, you have to think at some point there might be some pull for no other reason as a large short interest, and shorts trying to make sure they can maximize their losses or what have you, try play shenanigans. So, all right, so that's lemonade. Not much to talk about that. A block this morning, upgraded price target upgrade at Mizuho, whoever you pronounce it, Mizuho, raised that price target, I think, to 114 from 90, something like that. Added some December strikes yesterday. Hopefully get a chance here to lock some more of my November strikes into next week for more profits. And then, I'll wait until next week. I think it's almost like a foregone conclusion it's going to head to $100. So once it does that, I think there'll be some FOMO. And you look, Bitcoin's actually down this morning, down at $98. Not that it matters, but it seems like Square is almost starting to trade just on its own merits as opposed to being tied with all these other crypto names. And considering what MicroStrategy did yesterday, I think it's a good sign that it held up there. And it's right in the upper Bollinger Band. So right now, 94.99 is upper Bollinger Band. So that's almost a good sign too. Don't want to see it get into overbought territory. So slow. I don't like to see slow and steady, but maybe a pretty fast, a pretty not too fast and steady move to the upside, and then over $100. All right, now some other names. And I put this chart. Did I put it in the chat room? Uh, I wouldn't call it the small craps or even pigs fly, things like that. Whatever you want to say about some of these names, but some of these names have been decimated in this year, or not the best companies are falling under pressure, whether it be execution or competitive concerns or things like that have started to really take off. And I don't know, they always talk about the tax law selling, and there's always some crazy moves to end the year and then to start the new year. But some of it also is people, if you have huge profits, then you start paring back on some of your losers, and that kind of exacerbates the sell-off, right? It takes some of these companies that shouldn't be like you, which went all the way down to $17, probably shouldn't be 17, but to folks they're not selling it based on valuation, they're selling it based on a strategy to mitigate some profits, right? But I mean, take a look, and I'll use Peloton, and Peloton was gapping over 976. It hit yesterday in the after-hour session, but it's up over 45% after being down 50% back in August. And then you look at some of these other names, and Joby's not the best example because it hasn't really been destroyed this year, but it was down 25%. That's back to even. I think that goes higher. And then you look at these two other names that I think are underperforming and going to start to perform, and that's TDOC and, well, Unity, which I talked about. So you has already started to outperform or not trade lower. And I think these start to really bounce. And thanks for K Mitch OSU posted in the chat room yesterday. TDOC was one of my favorite stocks way before COVID. I missed the COVID run and they just got destroyed. You have competitive concerns, right? So what's the moat around someone talking to someone through a computer or doctor and getting the doctor? So there's that, but then the company trades way less than 1x revenues now, has a large short interest, and it's not going away. And then you have a new administration that's coming in to focus on efficiencies. And what's more efficient than having someone get you treatment online if they can, as opposed to face to face. So anyway, really like TDOC here. I think it's good trade over $11 into next week, at least at some point. Don't be surprised if I add some more strikes. I added some Januaries. And then Peloton, I have the January strikes too, which are finally back to flat. They'll be solidly green this morning. Don't be surprised if I add some more on Peloton too. You're coming into the holiday season, New Year's resolution season. And it's just a name that you have a new CEO, and there's a lot of just different catalysts that, I used to think Peloton it's like the Netflix of fitness, right? That's what I used to call it. And maybe it's coming back to that. Now they have a tremendous content of training videos that they've done. They're trainers. Some of these trainers are like pop stars. I mean, my wife does the Peloton. She loves some of these people. They do. Anyway, there's more to it. If you haven't used it or don't know anybody who has a Peloton, people, a lot of, especially folks in trading who, maybe they don't exercise, right? And they have no idea what that is in that ecosystem. So it's very easy to look at a company like Peloton and think it's a zero, right? That you're just going to dry your clothes on the bike. That's usually what happens. People get the newest gadget for the holidays, and then it just, by the end of January, it becomes either a piece of furniture or as it's used for something other than fitness. All right, so that's Peloton. Like Peloton, might add some more strikes there. Here's TDOC, and look at the channel. I don't know if you didn't read the watch list yet. Here's the channel. Once this 1050 breaks, I think it's off to the races. This has, I think it's like an 18% short interest, and you just look, and it's like back in June, it was over $20, I think, back in April or a little earlier than that. I'm not saying that's where it goes, but I think there's opportunity at least for a short-term move to the upside. And when it happens, I think it might be kind of somewhat explosive. So 11's the 200-day moving average. It gets over that, I think that'll be kind of like a trigger point. So really like TDOC. Don't be surprised if I add some more strikes on that one. JOBY, tremendous. I was talking about it, ran yesterday afternoon. Just an insane amount of calls hitting, I think it was the April whatever strikes. And let me see what the open interest is on those, if there's an update. Because I think the April 9s or the April, yep, they're all added. Well, most of them are added. 10,000 open interest. I think it had like a 900 open interest. Now it's 10,000 strikes added. There was like 70,000 calls traded versus 7,000 puts. So I really love the JOBY story. Thankfully, well, not thankfully, but the premiums finally started to explode because someone was just destroying those the April strikes. And it wasn't like, and I was saying it yesterday, it wasn't like 500 blocks 4 times or whatever. It was like 150, 30, 150, and all at the ass, no spreads, and throughout the day. So I think that's extremely bullish. So don't get me, I can go on a rant for a little while, but I really like Joby. One day maybe I'll try and and I always say this, but our time is finite, right? So I got to focus on where I can spend my time the best. I think there's a lot of folks who've put out some good stuff already on Joby, but I think this trade's double digits into 2025. Solid day yesterday, back to back to back strong sessions, nearly up 4%. Closed some of my January strikes for nearly 100% to cover some costs. I was looking at February's. I'll probably just wait maybe for the 25 to break. But if you look at the 200-day moving average, hasn't broken, held that since end of last year. So it's been nearly a year that US traded over its 200-day moving average. I think that's a great sign. DELL, it's trading over 142 here in the pre-market. I wish I had nibbled some. It just, I didn't like the action in the morning on DELL. I went and got the Palo Alto lotto calls. And then I think it was 10 o'clock. Then it embarked from 135 and tested 140 into the end of the day before pulling back. And here it is gapping. And DELL does this, right? It'll be 142. I'm like, wow, this is going to go to 145 today. And then it'll pull the carpet as the day goes on. So I'll be watching. They have earnings next week. I think it's going to trade to 160 next week, but just tough to trade that one. Also, like I said before, 3.5 trading days next week. And sometimes when you have a good week, you tend to be overly aggressive, right? So you get overly confident and arrogant. And what does the market do? The market humbles you, right? Gives you the serving of humble pie and takes it back in a matter of a day or a week or what have you. So I'm certainly not going to be in a position where I'm overly aggressive today. And then I'll continue to look for opportunities to scale out of positions to cover costs when I get a chance. And of course, Square's, I don't know if it's crypto, but Square's almost flat here in the pre-market. And it's funny, Lemonade's going to get an upgrade. So JMP Securities maintain an outperform rating, raise their price target from 40 to 60. And today will be the day that Lemonade sells off when a bullish analyst upgrades the stock, right? It's funny how that works. The bear analysts upgrade the stock or raise their price targets and the stock rallies. But we'll see here today. Hopefully Lemonade can hold its ground. If there's weakness, maybe 47 or so, which was yesterday's lows. I'll see what the lows were yesterday, 46. Yeah. All right. That's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.